Hello students, in this video of ours, we are going to learn about the harmful effects of microorganisms. In the first part, we have learned what are the different groups of microorganisms and how the organisms are useful to us. In this video, we will learn what are the harmful effects because they are harmful to us as well. Microorganisms are having harmful effects on us as well, on us, on other plants, on other organisms, because many of them are causing diseases. So we are suffering from many diseases which are caused by these microorganisms, where the causative organisms are these microorganisms, and that's why these microorganisms are called pathogen. So disease causing microorganisms are called pathogens, and they are causing many diseases in us. Microorganisms are harmful in many ways. Some of the microorganisms cause diseases in human beings, plants, and other animals. Such disease causing microorganisms are called pathogens. Pathogens enter our body through air we breathe, the water we drink, or the food we eat. They can also be transmitted by direct contact with an infected person or carried through an animal. So, what are the different ways of transmission of these microorganisms from an infected person to a healthy person? They can be coming to a healthy person through air, which we are breathing. They can be coming to a healthy person through water, which we are drinking. They can be coming to a healthy person through the food we are eating, and they can be coming to a healthy person by contact with an infected person, physical contact. By all these means, these are the means of transmission by which the microorganism can enter our body for and cause the infection. Now, these based on the mode of transmission by which we have got the infection, we can divide the diseases into airborne, waterborne, foodborne, soil-borne diseases based on the mode of transmission. Microbial diseases that can spread from an infected person to a healthy person through air, water, food, or physical contact, they are called communicable diseases. Communicable means they can be communicated. That means from one person it can go to another person. So these diseases are communicable diseases. They are also called infectious diseases. Transmission can be from infected person to healthy person. Corona is very, very infectious, and corona is also being transmitted from an infected person through the air, and the suspended particles, the nasal drops, the salivary drops which are present in the air may get into the healthy person and infect them. That's why wearing mask is very, 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 very important. Social distancing, washing your hands frequently, these are the norms these days to prevent and protect us from infection of coronavirus. An example of diseases, of these communicable diseases, other examples are cholera, common cold, chickenpox, tuberculosis. When a person suffering from common cold, sneezing, fine droplets of moisture carrying thousands of viruses are spread in the air, and these viruses may enter into our body of a healthy person while breathing. It can enter into our body through the nose, eyes, mouth, from any place, because we keep touching our face frequently. So they can enter our body through our hands or through the air droplets. So the respiratory etiquette should be followed very strictly to prevent any such kind of infection. Now let's see this table, which is giving us the name of the disease, the causative microorganism, mode of transmission, and the preventive measures. Tuberculosis. Now, tuberculosis, cholera, typhoid, these are the diseases which are caused by bacteria. Then measles, chickenpox, polio, hepatitis A, corona. These are the diseases which are caused by viruses. And then there are certain diseases which are caused by protozoa, like malaria. We know that malaria is brought to us by a mosquito bite. So the female Anopheles mosquito is the carrier of the causative organism, but the actual causative organism is Plasmodium, which is a protozoan. So this Plasmodium is bought by the housefly, the female Anopheles mosquito, and then when it bites us, when it bites a healthy person, infected person, then to a healthy person, and it gives the plasmodium into the blood of that healthy person. So this is how a person is suffering from malaria. This plasmodium is the causative organism, and this plasmodium is completing its life cycle in two hosts, human being and female Anopheles mosquito. So this is how the cycle goes on. Now, disease causing microorganisms in animals. Several microorganisms not only cause diseases in human and plants, but they also cause diseases in other animals. For example, anthrax. Anthrax is a dangerous human and cattle disease which is caused by a bacterium. So, in cattle, you will find this disease caused by the bacteria. Foot and mouth disease, FNM disease, which is called in short, it is caused by a virus in cattle. Robert Koch discovered the bacterium Bacillus anthracis, which causes anthrax disease. So they are not only causing diseases in human beings, they are causing diseases in plants as well as in animals. In plants, if you see, the microorganisms are causing diseases like wheat, rice, potato, sugarcane, orange, apples, and other plants also. And they reduce the yield of the crop. They can be controlled by certain chemicals which kill the microbes. And these chemicals are called pesticides. So pesticides are sprayed on the crop to kill these microorganisms, to protect the plant, to protect the crop from infection of these microorganisms. So here you can see the leaves and the fruit infected by them is by the microorganism. So this is called infestation. An infested plant, infested leaf and fruits, they look like this. They will have decoloration, or they will have the yield would be less. All these are symptoms. Now, if we see the diseases which are caused in plants are citrus canker, which is caused by bacteria, rust of wheat caused by fungus, then yellow vein mosaic of bindi okra, that is caused by virus. Now we'll come to another aspect of microorganisms, food preservation. Like, why do we need food preservation? Because we have seen that when we keep food for long, it gets spoiled, and that is also because of the microorganism. If you must have seen that if you keep your vegetable, your fruits outside within hours, if it is summer, or within a few days if it is winter, they will get spoiled and they will not be fit for eating. So that spoilage of food is because of the microorganism. The microorganisms, they spoil the food, and then when the microorganisms spoil the food, the food become poisonous, and if we are consuming that contaminated food or water, then we may fall ill. So we have to protect our food from the attack of these microorganisms, and there are various methods by which we can preserve our food. Like we are keeping our fruits and vegetables in fridge. Why? Because there the temperature is cool, temperature is low, and that temperature is not suitable for the microorganisms to grow. So that's why we are keeping our fruits and vegetables in the perishable food into fridge. Then we are keeping our pulses and grains in airtight containers. So the reason is same, because we want to protect our food by the attack of microorganisms, because they spoil our food. So we have to protect them, and this can be protection from the microorganisms is called preservation, because we have to preserve our food, and we can preserve our food by protecting that food by the attack of the microorganisms. This can be done by several methods. Chemical method, like the chemicals are used, such as the citric acid, the salts, the oils, sodium benzoate, sodium meta, bisulfate. These are the chemicals which are used as preservative. So in pickles, you must have seen in pickles, in jams, in jellies, in squash, these chemicals are put to preserve that by from getting spoiled by the micro microorganisms. Then we are using common salt also, like for preserving the fish, meat, amla, raw mangoes, tamarind. They can be preserved by using common salt. Why? Because the common salt also prevents the growth of the microbes. Then we can preserve food by using sugar as well. In jams, jellies, squashes, we are using sugar, because this sugar is also preventing the growth of microbes. Actually, they are taking out the moisture of the food, and without moisture, the microorganisms cannot grow. By using oil and vinegar, food items like pickle, vegetable, fish, meat are preserved by using oils and vinegar. It prevents the growth of microbe. By heat and cold treatments, heating food items will kill the microbes, and similarly storing food items at low temperature will also not let the microbes to grow. So these are the various methods by which we can preserve our food. Then there is another method which is pasteurization, which is called pasteurization. This is pasteurization actually is a process of heating milk at about 70 degree. So heating and then suddenly chilling it. You heat it and then suddenly cool it to prevent the growth of microorganisms. So no microbe can grow in that, and this process is called pasteurization. And this was also discovered by Louis Pasteur. By storage and packing, many food items are stored in airtight containers to protect them from microbes, because the dry grains, the spices, the cereals, they can be protected by the attack of microorganisms by keeping them in the airtight containers. Now, as we discussed in the useful effects of microorganisms, that they are fixing the nitrogen for the plants. So we will see how this nitrogen cycle is taking place, is working in the environment. Now, what is a cycle? Cycle is that suppose you have started from A and you have reached back to the A. That is called a cycle. So in nitrogen cycle, we will start from atmospheric nitrogen. In atmosphere, the air contains 78% of the nitrogen. But that nitrogen is not cannot be consumed by the plants. It's like wheat flour. You are having wheat flour, but until and unless you make chapatis out of them, you cannot eat it. You cannot eat the wheat flour. So you have to make chapatis. So similarly, the plant cannot eat that free nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere. It has to be it has to be converted into nitrogenous compounds, and then only the plant can eat these compounds. So that work is done by the bacteria which are present in the soil freely, or they are present with the roots of the some plants, leguminous plants, and then also they are fixing the nitrogen. Now what happened, this nitrogen is, the bacteria is turning these compounds into free nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds, and these nitrogenous compounds will be taken up by the are present in the soil, and from soil it will be taken up by the plants. So plant can eat that nitrogenous compounds, and from plants, because now these nitrogenous compounds are in the plant, Animals will also eat it, like the cow will eat, the deer will eat, the buffalo will eat, the goat will eat, and we are also eating. We are also having lot many plants, for example, parts of the plants. We are also having the vegetables and fruits, so we will also eat them. And then what will happen when these animals and plants, they will die? So what will happen? They will again be with the soil, and in the soil there are another set of bacteria, another set of microorganisms, which will convert these nitrogenous compounds into free nitrogen. So what happens again? This nitrogen, it will be, the organic waste will be decomposed, and again the nitrogen will be back to the atmosphere. So this is how the cycle is taking place. And as far as microorganisms are concerned, bacteria, blue green algae, they are fixing the nitrogen. Bacteria rhizobium is present with the root nodules of the leguminous plants, and but fixing the nitrogen. And there are certain free living bacteria also, they are present in the soil, and they are doing this work of nitrogen fixation. So this is how the nitrogen cycle is going on in the atmosphere. But this conversion of nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds can also can also happen with the lightning process, and that is atmospheric nitrogen. That nitrogen fixation is called atmospheric nitrogen fixation, because that is taking place with the help of the light. The nitrogen in the atmosphere is converted into nitrogen compounds in the soil by nitrogen fixing bacteria and blue green algae. Lightning also convert nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. The nitrogenous compounds in the soil are used by the plants for the synthesis of protein. Why do we need nitrogen compounds? We need nitrogen compounds for proteins, because protein is one of the major biomolecule which is required for the growth of our body. So we all, plants and animals, all need protein. So protein, and the nitrogen is present in proteins. Animals feeding on plants get proteins and other compounds. When plants and animals die, bacteria and fungus in the soil convert this nitrogenous waste back into the nitrogenous compound in the soil, and then back to the free nitrogen. And some other bacteria convert some nitrogenous compound in the soil into the nitrogen gas. So denitrification will also take place, which goes back into the atmosphere, and hence the nitrogen in the atmosphere remains constant. That's why the nitrogen is 78%. It is not decreasing, because the cycle is going on in the nature, and this cycle is ensuring that the percentage of nitrogen remains same in the atmosphere. This diagram which you are seeing, this is the leguminous plant. Leguminous is peas, beans, these are the leguminous plants. And here you can find, in the root nodules of these leguminous plants, you can find the bacteria are present in it, and this association is symbiotic. They both are benefiting each other. The bacteria is getting shelter in the roots of the plants, and at the same time the bacteria is fixing nitrogen for the plant. So they both are benefited by this association. So this was all about the microorganisms, their uses and their harmful effects for us. So we should be knowing everything about the microorganisms.